Hello and good evening. I would like to welcome you all to this evening's licensing subcommittee. I am now going to take you through the protocols for this evening's remote hearing. Please only speak when invited to do so by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If referring to any written submissions, please refer to the specific page number in the agenda pack. Any new evidence can only be submitted at the discretion of the chair and the agreement of all parties. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function to alert the meeting or dial into the meeting using the details on the invitation. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behavior will result in removal from the meeting. Once each application has been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. However, if you contact the licensing service the following day, you will be given a skeleton decision. Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I would now like to hand over to councillors for them to elect a chair.
I propose Councillor Smith.
Seconded.
Thank you very much, folks, and welcome everyone to this licensing subcommittee A, Monday the 3rd of July at 7 o'clock. You'll see, folks, you might have an online agenda or you might have a hard copy, probably an online version. Hopefully they sync up. The agenda is on the inside sleeve just here. You can see that. It outlines what's going to happen. But before we kind of kick off, we'll just do a quick round in the virtual room just to introduce ourselves. So I'm Councillor Smith, Chair of Licensing and also a councillor in Hackney. Councillor Root.
Hi, I'm Penny Root. I'm councillor for Victoria Ward.
Fantastic, thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Councillor Chris Kennedy, Councillor for Hackney Wick Ward.
Thank you very much. And today we have Councillor Maxwell with us. Councillor Maxwell, do you want to introduce yourself, please? And just why you're here.
Yes, so I'm Councillor Yvonne Maxwell for Hoxton West. I'm basically just observing as part of my training.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And then we have Suba.
Good evening. I'm Subha Sriramana, Principal Licensing Officer, and I will be presenting the report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda.
Hello, I'm Amanda Mill from Legal Services, supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And we've heard from Natalie. Thank you, Natalie. Mario is on the screen. He does the IT stuff for us. So thank you, Mario. Okay, so now I can see Peter on the screen, on my screen. Peter, would you like to introduce yourself, please, Peter?
My name is Peter Hudson. I'm the consultant manager for Yours London.
Okay, so you're yours. Did you say consultant
manager?
Consultant manager. Okay. What does that mean?
It means in all things operationals for health and safety and catering. I guide the team in sourcing suppliers and staff.
Okay, so I hadn't heard that term before, consultant manager. Anyway, Duncan.
Yes, Chair.
Can you introduce yourself, please, Duncan?
Yeah, I'm here to represent the license holder for Yours London, the second.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. And the license holder sits with me, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Locke.
Hi, Councillor Smith. My name is Tom Warren, and I am the founder and CEO of Lock Studios.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, great. And Jack? I think I know you. I think I met you before, Jack, haven't I?
We have met, Councillor. Yes, I'm here and representing Lock Studios for the first agenda item.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much for writing some of this stuff down. Okay, so we now have, I think, Rockwell.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rockwell Charles. I'm the applicant for a review for Yours London. I'm an environmental protection officer.
Thank you, Rockwell, for that. And then finally, we have Fowler. Hello, is Fowler there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, Fowler, would you like to introduce yourself then?
Hi, my name's Fola. I'm a resident of the flats that are above Yours London.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also here with another resident.
Hi. I'm Malaga. I'm also a resident here. Hi.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to see you all. Have I missed anyone, folks? Please tell me if I have, because my screen's limited to the number of tiles I can see.
Jonathan Kane. Jonathan Kane.
Oh, Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan.
Hello, hi. I'm one of the managers at Yours London also.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Right. Okay, so we shall crack on with the agenda. So we've done the election of chair, agenda item 1. Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence, and we have had apologies have been received today from councillors Moema and Walker, and Councillor Kennedy and myself are actually substituting for them today. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest to declare? Councillor Root.
I have a sort of small declaration of interest, which is that in a different incarnation, I know Jack a little bit because we both sat on the trustees board at Shoreditch Town Hall together for several years. But having said that, since he left, I haven't been in touch with him, so I certainly haven't discussed this case. So
okay.
I think that's really a conflict of interest. It's just for transparency's sake, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Root, for that. Amanda.
Yes, Chair. I wanted to ask whether or not you wanted the second item to come back after maybe 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
or half an hour.
Yeah, if they want to, folks. If you want for the agenda item 7, if you want to go away, say for half an hour, and come back, we can try and wind this other one up in half an hour. It might go a little bit beyond that, but you can sort of check in and out, and go for half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever. Yeah, is that cool?
Yeah, thank you. I may stay and listen as a matter of professional curiosity, but I think my client will be a lot less interested than me. So, but thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay, great. Excellent. So minutes of previous meeting, agenda item 4. So there are no minutes for consideration today. So agenda item 5 is, I will go through the hearing procedure very briefly for everyone. It works in steps. So step 1 is the appointment of chair. Step 2 is where the licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will present their case in support of their application. Step 4 is normally responsible authorities. In this case, on Tyson Street, Lock Studios, there aren't any. Step 5, other persons, 5 minutes you get for this, folks. Step 6, we move into a discussion that takes place over about 15 minutes. And then step 7, closing remarks. Step 8, final points of clarification. And then we ask you to leave, and then we will then go on to consider this at the end of, when we've heard both items. Okay, so everyone happy? Just to make sure, just before we crack on. Okay, I think everyone's content, so let's crack on. Okay, so if I could invite the Principal Licensing Officer, please, to outline the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So Licensing Service received an application for a premises license under Licensing Act 2003 for the Lock Studio, Springfield House, 5 Tyson Street. The application is seeking for late night refreshment from 2300 to midnight, Friday and Saturday, and to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises from 10 to 2300 Monday to Thursday, from 10 to midnight Friday and Saturday, and from 10 to 22:30 on Sundays. Representation still remains from one other person. We have not received any further additional information, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Suba. And just to get confirmation that this is within LP3 core hours.
That's right, Chair.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really good. Thank you very much. Okay, so the applicant now, Jack, I presume that's you. So you'll be coming in. You've got 5 minutes, Jack, to present your case in support of this application. Thank you. I would say that, can you just go into the off sales a bit, because I can't quite understand that one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. By complete coincidence, Mr. Warren and I were just talking on our WhatsApp back channel. And if off sales are at all a concern of yours, we'd be happy to withdraw that from the scope of the application.
Thank you for that.
And I will address you on the representation and the policy briefly, but can I start, please, just by asking Tom to tell you a little bit more about Lock Studios and Springfield House, to give you a bit more context before I talk about the application itself.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine. Thank you. All right, Tom.
Thanks very much, Jack. So yeah, I'm the founder of Lock Studios. We set up shop about 10 years ago in 2013, and we have 10 photographic studios and spaces across Hackney and now Tower Hamlets. So we've got 7 studios down in de Beauvoir, and this is our newest space on Tyson Street, Springfield House. Prior to us renovating it, it was unused for 4 years. Prior to that, I think JW Anderson was in the space. Essentially, we're using it as a post-production facility where we have retouchers retouching photographic images. On the top floor, we have a photographic studio, which is going to double up as an exhibition space. And we are seeking the license to sell alcohol, essentially so that after shoots, occasionally, photographers or members of our crew can have a beer or two. And then also very occasionally, we'd like to run photographic exhibitions in the spaces, activations, but very much as a kind of ancillary use to our core activities, which is photographic shoots. We have, just for context, we've had a license at our premises on de Beauvoir Crescent since late 2018, so coming up to just over 5 years. We've never once had a complaint in relation to this from any of our local residents. Bit more background on the business. We employ 52 people locally across our various sites. We've just registered as B Corp, so we understand the importance that businesses have to play within the local community. And we feel as though our application shouldn't be contentious. And obviously we've got lots of measures in place to make sure that any nuisance and noise from the space is minimized. And as I said, the licensable activities will very much be ancillary to our core business.
Okay, thank you for that. We can dig in a bit more during the discussion phase. Jack, do you want to come in now? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just talk for a couple more minutes, Councillor. So, consistent with that proposed and very specific use that Tom has explained, he volunteered conditions 8 and 9 at page 22 of your report to ensure that the licensable activities can only be provided in accordance with the photography studio use. You will also see additional comprehensive model conditions to promote the licensing objectives generally. So as a result of all of these conditions, there's no scope for the premises to transform into a public bar or alcohol-led premises, which I think seems to be the primary concern of the sole interested party objector.
What number was that condition again, Jack? Just remind me.
Conditions 8 and 9 at page 22.
Oh yeah, got it. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And then at page 48, you will see Tom's communication with the objector. And in that, his offer to engage is an open invitation, no matter the outcome of this evening's hearing. And indeed, Tom also engaged with Councillor Garbett during the consultation period, and you'll note no objection from her or anyone else locally. Also in his letter, you'll see Tom's offer to support a neighbourhood watch scheme or something similar in order to help address the residents' concern about bike thefts, although you'll know that's not strictly relevant to your decision on the licensing regime this evening. What's more relevant are the hours and conditions proposed, and they largely mirror Tom's existing premises licenses in de Beauvoir. Those premises operate already in a similar manner to that proposed this evening. They are also in an area shared with local residents, and you've heard from Tom do so without complaint.
Yeah,
so,
I think Jack, the hours need to be just adjusted to half an hour after the licensing activity stops. In the application, I think it just says 0 to 0.
Well, yeah, Chair, thank you for flagging that. So that's actually deliberate because it's an active photography studio and people are working in the building. It might be that Tom is doing a late shift and he might be in the building at much later than that, or indeed much earlier than the hours advertised. So in the interest of full transparency, we've said that the building could potentially be open 24 hours a day because people are working in there. But that's not to say they'll be there engaged in licensable activities during those times.
Yeah, that's quite critical, but members can explore that one as well. Okay. So members just we can explore that later.
Okay. So we say
that's nearly 6 minutes now.
Okay, forgive me. I'll briefly confirm no objections from your responsible authorities, Chair, which I hope you'll feel reassured on. And on policy, you've identified the hours. We're outside your special policy areas, lots of conditions to promote the licensing objective policies. And Chair, thank you for the extra minute. That's it from us.
Great, thank you very much for that. I think that's clear for everyone. So there, as you said, Jack, there's no responsible authorities today, so we can skip past step 4 in the hearing procedure and go straight to step 5. So if I could invite, is the other persons here for this one, Tuba?
They're not attending, Chair, this evening.
Sorry?
They're not attending, so it's just.
They're not attending. So I just need to ask members: Have you read their concerns, members? Yeah, just nod if you have. Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move into the discussion phase then. So step 6. So I'd just like to invite members to pose any questions you might have to either Locke or Jack. Councillor Kennedy.
Well, Chair, given that the resident isn't here, we should just check that we've heard responses to their concerns, which were specifically around the gate being open and people having access to those premises, because there've recently been some bicycle thefts and also noise. They're worried about noise coming up from, I guess, out of your windows and your doors while you might have events on. And we might as well also check with the licensing officer. That looks okay to me because of the nature of the premises themselves, that it says 00 to 00 for the hours they're open because of the working. But I did just want to check with the licensing solicitor that was okay. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Councillor Kennedy. Okay, so Amanda, do you want to just answer the last point there about the hours before we bring in Locke?
Chair, I have to admit we haven't had a situation like that before, but the only thing I will say is that because if it is open for 24 hours, then the licensable activity ends at a specific time, which is, we've already covered that in the application, which is within core hours. So therefore it shouldn't be an issue, but I'm going to double check with the licensing officer really if there is any issue with that, because as I say, we rarely have these 24-hour applications. It is unusual, but it is a different type of premises. It's not open to the public, is it, Mr. Spindler? It's only open to the members of staff. So it's largely a private matter, not something that members of staff, members of the public will walk in off the street drinking at all hours of the day and night. Is that fair to say, Mr. Spindler?
That's right. That's absolutely right. And it was in fact exactly what was applied for and indeed granted by your licensing authority in respect of the applicant's premises at 100 de Beauvoir Road. And I've got the license reference for that. I'm looking at it now. So that is set out in the same form: licensable activities during core hours and then 24 hours opening, just to cater for people working in the building, potentially much later than that.
Could we just
Yeah,
ask the licensing officer to just double check that with the reference? If you could quote the reference, so we could
Yeah.
just verify that that is the same thing. So I don't want to mislead members, but also it's not something we deal with on a day-to-day. So we do want to make checks to make sure that we're not agreeing, or members would not be agreeing to something that's not appropriate. So
Yeah.
we're not trying to be awkward, but we just need to make a check. So Suba, would you be able to check once you've quoted the reference? Thank you. Mrs. Spindler, could you quote the reference? Have you got
Yeah,
it? Okay, great.
I can quote the reference. I've got a
And
copy
send it.
as well, if you'd like me to send it to anyone. It's 106-809 100 de Beauvoir Road, Lock Studios.
Yeah. Just on that point about the opening hours, Locke and Jack, I mean, I many moons ago, I used to kind of float around that industry. Still, I've got friends in the industry, I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest with you, that you're within core hours, which is great, but actually, in reality, if people are still knocking around that building after having had a few drinks and stuff, the likelihood is that it would carry on, and that's a concern of mine. So just putting it out there.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exactly how it's authorised at the premises, the applicant's existing premises, and that doesn't happen, and there haven't been any complaints. But if you do need any extra reassurance on that, Chair, then I'm sure the applicant would be able to agree the condition to say that persons, and please, Tom, stop me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but if you'd like a condition to say that persons engaged in licensable activities at the premises shall be off the premises by a certain time, say 30 minutes after the times for licensable activities, then that's not something we'd resist.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it sort of makes sense. I mean, look, you know what I mean? People are hanging around, they've had a few drinks, and then you say, oh, by the way, you've got to stop drinking now, and because it's 11 o'clock, but you can carry on working. It's just not going to happen in reality. That's the reality of it. So I think a condition like that, Jack, would be kind of it would be useful if you could consider that, Locke, if that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously we don't want to stop your people working, but we don't, it's a creative.
Hopefully they are working and drinking at the same time. Chair, I'd just like to add, I can think, of probably 2 occasions in the last year across all of our studios where shoots have gone past midnight. It's a very, very rare occurrence now. But yeah, I think if that condition needs to be in there, that's absolutely fine by me.
Excellent. I mean, I think it makes sense, and it would give members reassurance just from that in that particular point. Sorry, I'm just writing this down. Okay.
Mr. Spindler, could you quote that condition again, please? Could you mention the condition?
Yeah.
I've got it. I've got
Okay.
it, Jack. Don't worry. I've got it.
Okay, good.
Councillor Root, you had a question. Oh, sorry. Just before, sorry, Chris, you asked a few other things, didn't you? So about the entry gate, Locke. About the entry gate, and then about the windows and doors. Residents are worried about noise coming through the windows and doors, and the entry. Can you just talk about the entry gate, because you've been doing some work there, haven't you? And they believe that because the door's been open, whatever, there's been problems.
So actually, that was, Chair, nothing to do with us. It was our landlord who was fixing the gate, and I think the bikes were stolen, sadly, when the landlord was fixing the gate. I think what I'm going to say to the resident, and this is definitely true, is we've now installed a very comprehensive CCTV system outside our premises. So hopefully, actually, security is very much extended by our premises. With regards to the windows, Councillor Kennedy, we have installed acoustic blinds, so that if there is ever background music that could be deemed loud, we've put in some acoustic blinds, which I think reduce the sound by, I think it's 10 decibels. We've done extensive sound testing in the space, and actually when you stand right outside the building, you can't hear the music. Not that we would ever be playing loud kind of dancing music. It's kind of background exhibition style music.
And worth mentioning, Chair, that Tom, prior to this evening's hearing, had to obtain a 10 to cover a launch event. And I think that the launch event was probably about as rowdy as it gets a couple of weeks ago. And no feedback from the rest of that.
Yeah, I mean,
the feedback was we had 10 residents join us for the kind of the launch evening, and they all had a very good time. So that was the only feedback we got.
Oh, great. So yeah, just because condition 13 says no noise generated on the premises or by its associated plant or equipment shall emanate from the premises, nor vibration be transmitted through the structure of the premises. So there's already a quite a strict condition in there, Locke. You know, it's obviously, you know, I don't have to tell you this, but it's important to read through those conditions so you know exactly what you signed up to. Councillor Root.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I was thinking that, you know, if I were Tom, I might actually be quite grateful for that extra condition that we've put in there, because if he's wanting to carry on working late at night, it might be quite useful actually to have a reason to get rid of all the people who've been drinking. But I suppose my question was about off sales. I wondered why there was the request for off sales in there, and is it actually for those people who you are trying to get rid of, to say, look, you can buy a beer and take it home with you? I just don't quite understand why you want off sales.
Yeah, well, I don't think we do. So if there's any concern at all, then happy to withdraw that element of the application. Sometimes it's handy to have off sales if, for example, you're arranging an event elsewhere and you're supplying the alcohol. But I think, Tom, that's so unlikely that if there's any concern in respect of this specific application, happy to withdraw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I've got a couple of questions. So, Tom, you know, you're running a very successful business here, which is fantastic. You employ 52 local people again, which is fantastic. When you have these private functions, for example, I mean, are those 52 employees all in the building all the time? I mean, would they be at these private functions? My question is, if there's 52 people in the building, how many extra people would you have potentially if you had a private function? The total, I'm just trying to get at the total number of maximum people that you would expect, kind of thing, ever.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Jack. Shall I address that one first?
Yeah.
So within this building, Springfield House, we actually only have about 20 people working. So the other 32 are spread across our other sites and in our office, which is on De Beauvoir Road.
Okay, so 22, did you say?
20.
20. All right.
Yeah, you know, give or take a few freelancers, you know, on any given day. The space upstairs, I think you're talking about, you know, for an exhibition launch, you may have 100 people go through the space over 3 hours from 6 till 9. So in terms of crowd dispersal, you're not talking about loads of people congregating outside. And actually, when we did our launch party 3 weeks ago, we were very aware that people congregating outside of our front door could cause noise and nuisance. So we actually had a security guard ushering people outside onto the street, which is not a residential street, just off Dalston Lane, where they congregated. And if they wanted to smoke, we kind of pushed them there. And obviously we said, no drinks outside, please be respectful of neighbours. And as Jack said, we were very happy not to get a single complaint after that event. And that was probably, I think we had about 150 people over the course of an evening for about 3 hours. And yeah, as Jack said, it was probably about as busy as we'd ever go.
Yeah, I mean, that's very very good to be aware of those issues, Tom, you know, because that would cause a lot of problems. I mean, I think, I mean, if members agree, you know, having a sort of a you know, just not an extensive dispersal policy, but just a dispersal policy sort of within, you know, your license would be useful for big crowds like that. And I don't know if members think it's over the top to have a sort of risk assessed situation with an SIA. I don't know if you feel that that's over the top. It might be. Do you want to come in on that, members, and tell me if you think that's over the top?
Yeah, I don't think it's probably necessary, really.
Yeah, neither do I.
They're going to be quite few and far between these events, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not like it's a regular feature, and I think a dispersal plan is a good idea, but I don't know if an SIA is needed. Really.
Yeah, essentially it's just how you manage it, Tom. You know, if you feel that it's going to be an issue, you know, with lots of people leaving the building, then do what you did before. You know, I think that's just use your common sense, because you know that if there is a problem down there, you know, we will get complaints, and then you'll be hauled back in again. We don't really want that. So, members, any further questions you want to ask? I mean, I was going to ask about the sort of the office space, because you've got the ground floor, the first floor is all sort of office type. Is it open plan in there, or is it all sort of carved off?
A mixture. Lots of rooms for Zooms now, which is what you need.
Yeah.
But it's fairly open plan. We've designed it though that there's a kind of core with a staircase, and that's all coded off, and you can only get in with entrance fobs. So if people are working within the offices and people are upstairs for an exhibition, they need to go downstairs to the loo, which is on the first floor.
Yeah.
They can't get into the offices.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's no risk of people coming in and nabbing
So
stuff.
if you were having a function, it would mainly be taking place on the second floor, so people wouldn't be walking around all over the place.
No. Yeah, literally all the second floor.
Yeah, excellent. That was all the questions I've got, members. I don't know if you want to ask any more, or are you happy?
Nothing more.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll just go to closing remarks, I suppose. So, Jack, if you want to just come in and have a few closing remarks.
Yeah, I'm conscious you've got a review after this one, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to answer questions. So nothing more from me. Tom, anything from you?
No, nothing from me. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Yeah, great. And I have to ask this because it's basically step 8. Any points of final clarification from members? Members are happy. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jack and Locke, for attending this. And you know, you'll get a decision basically by phone, I think tomorrow, Sue. Is that'll be okay? Yeah. And then a written decision within 5 working days, hopefully.
Brilliant. Thank
At
you
least
very
a
much.
skeleton anyway.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's move on then, unless people require a comfort break. I don't see anybody indicating for a comfort break. Those people here for next agenda item, if you could turn your cameras on now, just see if you're back. That's agenda item 7. Yeah, Duncan. So how was that, Duncan?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it was reasonably straightforward. I've certainly been in more challenging hearings, shall we say,
Yeah.
on occasions.
Riveting viewing, yeah?
I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse.
Okay, so let's move on to this agenda item. So if I could invite Suba, the Principal Licensing Officer, to outline this particular agenda item. Thank you. And this is for Ewers, London, basement and ground floor, 54 to 56 Scruton Street, EC2A. So thank you, Suba.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item we are going to consider is for review application received under the Licensing Act 2003, as you mentioned, for Yours London, 54 to 56 Scruton Street, on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance due to the continuous noise complaints received by the Environmental Protection. After the consultation period, we received representations against the review from one other person. We have received some additional information from the premises license holder and from the applicant, which is Environmental Protection, and all these documents have been circulated. And I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. So step 3 is the applicant will present their case over 5 minutes in support of their application for calling for a review. So I presume that's you, Rockwell.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, Rockwell, you've got 5 minutes to present your case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Rockwell Charles. I'm a Senior Environmental Protection Officer from the Environmental Protection Council. Environmental Protection have actually instigated this review on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. It's in regards to a predominantly noise arising from music and also from patrons. The noise complaints have been spanned over a period from the 19th of September 2021 to the 18th of March 2023. You would see that on the pages 62 to 63 of the, Yep, 62 to 63 of the document. Over these 18 months period, the Environmental Protection has received 36 official complaints. To break it down, in 2021, we had 2 complaints, 15 complaints in 2022, and 19 complaints, so 19 plus complaints in 2023. That's on the same pages of 62 to 63. This is complaints have been received from 3 separate residents, officers, or the ward officer, my colleague, Mr. Olosi Beacon, has been liaising with the premises license holders over a period, you can see on page 63, from the 30th of November 2021 to the 10th of March. There's over 12 emails, letters, telephone calls trying to see if they could rectify this matter informally. The way our Environmental Protection wants to proceed with this review, we believe that this has been an ongoing matter with regards to noise, and we are applying for the license to be revoked on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance.
Okay. Is that it, Rockwell?
There's more to add, but at this stage, I would probably address any questions in regards to. There's been some new. I received today an acoustic report today, which is a bit short notice, but I've scanned through that report. That report was commenced before the actual times that we've witnessed statutory nuisance. We've witnessed statutory nuisance on 2 occasions. One on the 25th of March at 23:11, and that's with regards to loud amplified music. That's on page 73. There would be an email from my colleague, Kadeen Jackson, who actually emailed the case officer with regards to their findings. It was loud amplified music, and at that same day, the officer visited on the 26th at 00800 hours, and also spoke to the licensee at 001500 hours with regards to the loud music. I think they did lower the music down. I actually submitted some documentations in regards to noise nuisance, which was witnessed, caused by a noisy extractor fan. That was on the 11th of May at 20:55. 2 noise abatement notices were served in regards to that. That would have been included as additional information. I do not see that numbered on the actual agenda.
Okay. I mean, I have quite a number of questions, but I think we'll kind of leave those to the discussion, I think, unless members have any points of clarification at this point. I have quite a number of questions, Rockwell, but I'll leave them to the discussion. And now, are you finished?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Rockwell. Okay, so we have no responsible authorities. we need to hear from Duncan, I presume, do we at some stage?
I hope so.
So the applicants, so the chair will invite the relevant responsible authorities, of which there aren't any, and then the other persons are next, I believe. So that would be Fola. Fola, would you like to come in? Hello?
Hello. Hi.
Yes, it's your turn now, Fola, to raise your concerns about this, or your support, or whatever it is you're going to be doing. Yeah. So off you go.
Hi. So well, I've been living here for over 8 months, and in terms of the noise and stuff, I wouldn't say that I've had any disturbances from the lounge downstairs. In general, I'd say the area is quite noisy due to maybe other events and just it being a busy area. But for the times that I've witnessed, the lounge has been quite reasonable with the sound, and it does go off by late at night. So I haven't had any issues with them. So I'm in support of them retaining their licensing.
Yeah. And does the garden area affect you and neighbours at all, as far as you know?
No, yeah, my bedroom is located right above the garden, and no, it hasn't caused any issues, I'd say, for myself. And
Yeah,
because
it
I'm in
hasn't
flat
caused.
B, the one directly above, so there hasn't been any issues for me.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm in flat D, that is 2 above, and I haven't had any complaints either. I can hear people, but I can hear people having fun, which is not a nuisance, but a general thing about the area in Shoreditch.
Yeah. And then what about your neighbours? Do you speak to your neighbours about it? What do they say?
Well, it's just the 2 of us here right now. I think that's all right for now. And 2 of the neighbors just moved out. So
Yeah, no, it's just a general question really about, how you bump into your neighbours in the corridor and stuff, So your neighbours haven't really raised it with you, is what you're
yeah,
saying?
since there was no complaints,
They've not
yeah.
raised any complaints with me or with
Okay. Is that all you want to say? You've got a bit
Yeah.
more time if you want to say any more.
No, it's all right, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your submission there. That's going to be useful. Thank you. Now, Duncan, it's your turn.
Is it me, Chair? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say my name. I do apologise. I was coughing at the wrong time. Thank you. Right. Let's just take a step back here and focus on what you're being asked to do. You're being asked to take away this man's livelihood. And what is the basis for that? Well, the basis for that is, as far as I can see, yes, there are 2 visits to the premises by officers, which I'll deal with in turn. What we're actually dealing with here is a number of anonymised complaints from, it would appear, neighbouring properties. We don't know the veracity of those complaints because they haven't been, in my view, no disrespect to Rockwell, I know he hasn't been closely involved in this, I know he's visited the site. But in my view, professional view, these haven't been investigated thoroughly or significantly enough for you even to get close to considering a revocation of this license. I fully accept Rockwell's statutory duty to promote the licensing objectives. I fully respect his duty to investigate statutory nuisance under the Environmental Protection Act. But that has to be done in a way that can properly evaluate whether a public or a statutory nuisance is being created from these premises. The last of the complaints actually dates over 3 months ago. And what we just have is a series of phone calls. Well, the simple position is my client does not accept that there is a nuisance emanating from their premises. There is a condition on the license which, and there is talk in the, I won't go into too much legal technicality, but there is talk, albeit abstractly, of applying section 177A to this review application, although that then predates the request for revocation. 177A simply can't be appropriate in these circumstances because there's already a condition that requires that the music can only be background music. It actually specifies what that is, namely that two individuals don't have to raise their voices. And so 177A is effectively already imposed on this license. You can't disallow incidental music from any license, because under Schedule 1, incidental music is excluded from the scope of what defines and is defined as regulated the same. So it simply would be unlawful to exclude background music. You simply can't do that as a matter of law. I know there was a visit on the 21st of July of 2022 where there were complaints, and those complaints were raised at 11:08. And it's worthwhile noting that following that, officers visited the premises at 23:36, and the premises were closed. And so I think that demonstrates at least one example of where those complaints just have not been verified by your officers. Now, I have to concede two things, and that's why we've submitted the supporting documents we have. First of all, and it is actually acknowledged by Environmental Health in the representation they've made, the visit in March, my client accepts that shouldn't have happened, but it is acknowledged in the letter that was sent and the email that was sent that that was because someone came in with a sound system, their own sound system, plugged that in and played the music themselves. And I've told my clients that just simply cannot happen going forward, and it has not happened since, and it will not happen, because they understand what their license is, what it requires of them, and what they can't do is rely on other people coming in to comply with that. And so the only way that they can avoid that happening is for them to undertake that themselves. And so going forward from that point in time, give or take, as soon as I was made aware of this particular thing, this particular incident in the March, since that point they haven't, and they will not going forward. And I think you have to confirm that now, aren't you, Sam? Yeah. In terms of the extraction fan, that's why we forwarded the email. That has been addressed. I mean, it does descend into public nuisance and extraction fan. I have to accept that, but that has been addressed. And I would just invite you in consideration of that to consider 11.20 in the guidance, which says that any step you take should only address the causes that gave rise to the concerns that brought the review about in the first place, and that has been tackled and addressed. So what we have here, on the one hand, is two local residents who live above the premises who have been happy to make where representations have been made, and they're happy to say that there aren't any issues with these premises, and actually come to the hearing and say that. And then on the flip side, we have a load of anonymised complaints from we don't know who, we don't know. They're talking about recordings. We don't know where those recordings came from. We don't. We said, but you can't take someone's business away based on some recording that a third party has sent in saying, listen to this. So you simply can't. Environmental Health, as any responsibility, have to, if they are applying to review a license and asking you to take that step against someone's business, then they have to do so in a way that brings forward sufficient evidence for you to be able to evaluate what the appropriate step is. And I would just submit that the review application as it stands just fails to do that. At the end of the day, it's not my responsibility to do that. That's your responsible authorities. But based on the evidence before you today, based on the fact there are two residents here happy to support the premises and say it doesn't cause them any problems, given the limited scope of the license as it stands, given the steps that have been taken by Sam in respect of the extractor fan, I would submit the only appropriate step for you to take is to take no action against this license. And so that's what I'm going to respectfully invite you to do. I don't know how I'm doing on the 5 minutes. I may even stray slightly over, but
6:37.
I do apologise, but I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig, for that. Okay, so let's move into the discussion phase now. I suggest just to invite members to come in with, I mean, I'm sure you've got lots of probing questions here. So, Councillor Root.
I just had a question for Rockwell, really, about whether or not the people who had made the complaints had been made aware of this hearing and invited to come along, because, you know, it does seem slightly strange that they are all anonymous. We don't know anything about the context in which those complaints were made. They could indeed be vexatious, who knows? So I just wondered about that.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that one of the visits that I've done on, and I did that, I made that visit myself on the 11th of the 5th, was a proactive visit to one of the complainants, where I actually substantiated statutory nuisance caused by the extractor system. I was not familiar with the extractor system, not familiar with this case, because it was always my colleague that was dealing with it before. But I went into a residential premises, and the noise that I experienced from the extractor was a statutory nuisance. So they are real complainants. They're not people that are just complaining for the fun of it. At that same time, I must say that when I did visit, I did observe, did go to the restaurant, and you could actually hear the fan noise from in the front of the restaurant, a humming noise. And I would say, I don't know if I could bring this up, but we are still receiving complaints with regards to these noise nuisances.
Okay. Yeah. Any further questions, Councillor, at this stage? No. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you. So can I take that further? So you've still received complaints about the extractor fan.
Yes.
Can you tell us, I don't expect you to have them all, but
yes,
roughly. Oh, okay.
I have them all.
Can we have some more detail, please?
All right. From the 18th of March. So on leading up from the last on the review paper, on the 18th of March 2022 was the last complaint. We've had 9 complaints after that. The complaints have ranged from the ventilation system and music noise. The last complaint.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rockwell, but these aren't before the committee and they haven't been disclosed to me in advance of the hearing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I was just answering a question. It's not down to me. But yeah,
I mean, I think Mr. Craig has got a point there, because we have to just consider the stuff that's in front of us. So, you know, that's really where we're at with this. The point is, I suppose, is the extractor noise, has that been resolved, Mr. Craig? That you said it had.
Yes.
But you know, we need to be certain that it has, and it sounds like it hasn't.
Do you want to answer that? Yeah, it has been. It's been completely dealt with. The extractor fan was due a service. It's been serviced. It no longer makes what may have been classed as a nuisance before. So I would say it's been completely dealt with.
Okay. Amanda, do you want to come in with this? Because Mr. Craig he's right. We have to consider the evidence in front of us. Just to confirm that.
Is there a reason, Mr. Charles, why you haven't informed Mr. Craig about, or the license holder about these 9 additional complaints?
These were some of them were of recent. They were over the weekend gone, some of them. So by the time I've got that material, yeah, I mean, I got material today, but I thought it not acceptable to send that material. I only had a cutoff time being the 30th of June to send material in. Otherwise, I would have sent this in.
Well, sorry, Mr. Craig, can I just ask a question here? Because so that extractor fan, Mr. Craig, was operating perfectly fine. I mean, in terms of no complaints, up until whenever the first complaint was. Rockwell, remind me when the first complaint about the extractor fan happened.
As a matter of fact, it's only when I witnessed the nuisance on the 11th of the 5th is when I witnessed the nuisance from there.
Okay, but previous before that, we didn't have any complaints.
No,
about
we had no complaints. No.
At that venue. So, Mr. Craig, how long was that extractor fan in for? Essentially, you know, how long's it been there for? Essentially, up to that point, without complaint, is what I mean.
It's been there for years before I even got in the building.
Well, the premises were licensed in 2018, and we can say confidently since then, we can't speak before that time. Is that fair comment to 2018?
Yeah.
2018.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was operating for what, 3.5, 4 years without complaint?
We believe so. I mean, unless Rockwell can tell us differently.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Well,
no,
Just
no.
from our point of view, this was news to me about the extraction ban when we got the thing about the 11th, and obviously you'll see the date that it was dealt with. I think it was about 3 days later.
Yeah. And Rockwell, have you been? I keep saying Rockwell, so I apologize for that. Rockwell, have you been back to sort of test it, Rockwell? You know, since it's been serviced.
Since I've served the notice, I've had no contact from the actual premises license holders, none whatsoever.
Well, can I just make a point about this? And again, I'm not being critical of you here, Rockwell, because you were involved in the letter. But your colleague is well aware I've been representing these premises, and that notice was not served on me, which it should have been, because Ola was well aware. If it's Ola, I'm pronouncing it correctly, was well aware I was representing the premises, and it should have been served on me, and it wasn't. So the first I knew about it was last week. I didn't even know about this notice.
Why should it have been served on you? You're not the legal you're not the legal entity.
I'm the legal representative.
Yeah, but I mean, it was
of the license holder.
Yeah, but it was served on the correct company, was it not?
Well, I think it would have been helpful if please let me finish. It would have been helpful if Ola, knowing I was legally representing the license holder, if he had sent a copy to me, because it may have meant matters were dealt with in a more expeditious and legal manner if I'd been made aware of it. My client is not legally qualified, and that's what they're paying me for at the end of the day. So, not criticising you, but I feel even if what you say is correct about proper service, as a matter of professional courtesy, as a matter of trying to get
remember, sorry, 1 second. Remember, folks, the protocol is everything goes through the chair. Please, it's very important. We don't have these kind of separate. So everything through the chair.
Apologies. Well, look, I made my point.
No, you've made your point. Yeah, exactly. The thing is, members need reassurance. Essentially, you've said, Mr. Craig, that the extractor fan is not a problem. Members need. We've got your word for it. But we need some, scientific proof really that it isn't a problem. So that's sort of where we're at there. So you can see where members are sitting at around there. We don't know if it's a problem or not, frankly. You've told us it isn't, but stuff that's come out in the hearing suggests that it is, even though it's not part of the submission, if that makes sense. Councillor Root.
I was just wondering, because Fola was talking about noise from the garden. I just wondered whether or not Fola had anything to say about extractor fan noise.
Good point.
Are you still there, Fola?
Yeah, I'm here. With the extractor fan, I would say you can hear it, but it's not to the point where I'd say it's a nuisance. And it is something that is required for the restaurant to function and to adhere with, the regulations with the fumes and that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say that it's affected me in any way.
I'm a floor above her, and I have never heard.
She's never even heard the extractor.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's useful. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's not. I wouldn't class it as something to complain about.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not an expert on extractor fans, Chair, but I've seen sort of big industrial ones that do make pretty huge noise. I'm just wondering, in the grand scheme of things, how big is this? How much of a job does it have to do? Is it possible that it's a bit over-spec'd for the space? I don't know.
Could I just respond to that, please?
Yes, of course.
Which is, of course, I think Rockwell has confirmed this, that there weren't any issues with this, it would appear, prior to May. And so I just would make the point that would suggest that there was something that went off-piste with it, so to speak, that my client has obviously told you that they've addressed by way of the report and the service that it's had. So obviously, if this problem had been long-standing and enduring and persistent, then that would suggest there was a particular issue with the with the hardware, so to speak. But I think it would appear. Look, I'm not an expert either. And I know that they can. You're absolutely right, Councillor Ralph, that they can cause a lot of noise, particularly to people who live above restaurants. But all I would say is you've heard from Fowler, and you've also got the evidence to support the fact that, or the lack of evidence to support the suggestion that there's been an issue that predates May of this year.
Okay. Councillor, are you happy with that? Did you say you want to come in, Rockwell?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What I would say is that the complaints, and we've got to take it on board that I think when I'm looking at my predecessor, or Ola, who was investigating this matter, there were times during over the COVID period where we weren't going into residential premises. So access to residents was not feasible at times. As this premises had been getting complaints, I actually went, as I said, on that date, on the 11th, and what I witnessed, went there for the music, but what I heard was the extractor system, which was intrusive. You had a humming noise, a vibrating kind of humming noise coming through the actual structure. Even when you went into your restaurant, I spoke to the management. I asked to speak to the owners. They said they don't know who the owners are, and they refused to give me that information. I left my details there. And they did not. I had no correspondence with the managers. Environmental protection, the way how we look at things is that if we can get resolution and response from people, because we try to work with businesses, but if they don't communicate with us, then we have no alternative than to take enforcement action. The noise I witnessed on that date was a statutory nuisance. I know there were other residents who reside in that block that are saying that they can't hear it. I don't know where they are situated. I can't reveal where the complainant is, but all I could say at that time, that noise was materially interfering with the use of that premises, and it was a statutory nuisance.
Okay, thank you, Rockwell. Amanda, you've taken your hand down. Do you want to?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask something, but I think I won't, so I'll leave it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Craig, I know you want to come back, but I want to get Councillor Kennedy in just very briefly. Just hold the thought. Councillor Kennedy.
So that the second, I just want to be clear in my head that there've been two statutory nuisances. The first one was where there was the visiting people who'd hired the space out, and the second one was the one that we've just been talking about with the noise from the extractor fan. But I would have expected, and I'd like to hear a reply back from the licensees, that once you'd been told that and you'd been asked to get back in touch and the officer's details had been left, that you would have got back in touch.
I think that might be a mishap from a staff member, because when the staff member had made us aware that the council had been round, they simply just said to me that the council had been round and stated that there was noise coming from the extraction fan. So the immediate thing I done was to get on the phone to the extraction servicing company and service it, as in just on the assumption that that's where there may have been noise coming from it. That I didn't know anything about any other correspondence or anything that they had actually had with the person that came from the council. I wasn't aware of it like this until now. I didn't know any of this happened. So all I could do if I get told that there's noise coming from the extraction fan is to deal with the noise. So that's what I did. I dealt with the noise.
Yeah.
Sorry, could I just respond to that? I'm going to say this in an open forum. I doubt you'll get a more collaborative licensing lawyer in the country than me. I'm happy to say that in this hearing. I have amazing relationships with responsible authorities up and down the country. And I will just say to Rockwell now, just please email me and we can have a conversation, a discussion. But that did not happen. It didn't happen in respect of the incident in March. I found that out from Ola in an email exchange. And I didn't find out about the extraction ban. If I'd been notified of this, look, sometimes clients don't always grasp the importance of things. They don't always grasp what things mean. That's again why they're engaging somebody like me. It's my job to tell my client on occasion, this is serious. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I think it's fair to say my clients generally listen to what I say because they respect the fact that I will tell them the truth and I will be straight with them. But I can only do that if I'm being engaged in the process. Now, I'm not expecting people to be a mind reader and knowing that I represent every premises that I do. But in this particular instance, your environmental health section were well aware that I represented these premises. And if I'd been engaged with this, I promise I would have picked the phone up to my client and I would have had that conversation with them. So please, Rockwell,
I wanted to go through the chair. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I mean, I know there's a few people waiting to speak. I think everyone just needs to take a deep breath. We're getting a little bit fixated about the extractor fan. I know it's important for residents, but we kind of, one question that I have is what did the service people say when they came about that extractor fan? I mean, because sometimes the fan can get loose. There might be a nut or something loose on the fan. It might start to wobble and make lots of noise. You know, what did they say was the problem?
No, it's not necessarily a problem as such. An extractor fan requires servicing it, like basically on periodic times. It just was the time that needed it to be serviced.
Yeah, but did they say it was a problem? I mean, did they say there was a problem with, like, because what we've got here, we've got an extractor fan that's been operating for years without any complaint, and then all of a sudden in May it starts. There's a complaint comes in, and all that out of the blue. So something must have gone wrong with the extractor fan, right? In order for the noise to go up.
Yeah, but what ends up happening is that if the extraction fan hasn't been serviced or at the time when it needs to be serviced, for example, it might be like it might have to work harder. Like it's working harder will mean more noise.
Okay. Did they say anything to you? You know, when you take your car in for a service, they'll sometimes say,
Just gave the report and said that it needed to have been serviced. I asked them whether it would have been making more noise, and they said that it could be making more noise because of the fact that it needs to be
working harder. Okay. By the sounds of it, it's nothing specific, Chair, just simply that it was having to work harder because presumably it was due a service. A lot.
Yeah, the filters were jammed or whatever. Rockwell.
I've seen the report that was sent for the extractor fan, but that was just to clean the fan. Usually when you're looking at noise from the fan, you would look at getting an acoustician involved. So it's not a matter of just cleaning it in that regard. It's a matter of finding what's causing the noise problem.
Yeah.
But this is just a general clean. There is an acoustic report, but the acoustic report isn't of relevance in regards to the fan.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, I'll say on behalf of my client, well, if there's any further work that needs doing, we'll happily do it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there might be to me. Councillor Root.
Not according to Fowler.
No, not according to Fowler, that's right. Councillor Root.
Yeah, well, a couple of observations really. I mean, I think Mr. Craig needs to recognise that, you know, local authorities deal with the licence holder rather than the licence holder's legal representative. And you know, I don't like the implication that there's some reason that it's not quite proper that people didn't reach out to you. And it seems to me that there's a bit of a training issue going on here, that, you know, if this premises had a visit from the statutory authorities who were responding to a complaint, and, you know, somebody from the statutory authorities had left a business card saying, please contact me, I would be very cross with the member of staff that didn't pass that on to me if I were managing that premises. And, you know, if that phone call had been made, then maybe instead of just getting the ventilation cleaned, you might have got some sort of noise report on that as well, and you know, we'd all be in a better position at this point. So I'd like a little bit more give really from the premises license holder to recognize that, you know, it could have been dealt with. I mean, I recognize that getting it cleaned was a good thing to do, but you know, there are other things that could have been done which would have been more beneficial to trying to sort the problem out really. And I would like to hear a bit more about what at this point you'd like to do about the extractor fan to try and sort it out.
Well, can I firstly respond to the first point that you raised, which is, you know, I don't expect environmental health to contact me as a legal representative of any of my clients as a matter of course. I fully accept that. But when there is a review application in relation to a particular premises And I have been in contact with environmental health to say I'm representing these premises. There's a review application ongoing. I think in those circumstances, I think it is appropriate that the legal representative, when there's a review application, there's a hearing coming up, that the legal representative is contacted at that point. I think that's a perfectly reasonable point to make. I'm not suggesting that the world centered around me in any way, shape, or form. All I'm saying is, in those circumstances, it's absolutely right that the premises is given the correct opportunity. Well, I won't dwell on that anymore. I don't want the hearing to center around that for a second. In terms of, I mean, look, Sam can speak for himself, but all I will say is, I'm sure he will do whatever, if there is further work to be done, happy to collaborate with Rockwell on that. Any reasonable work that can be undertaken to address that, you'll happily do if there's any more work. But you don't think? I mean, look, we don't know, but our understanding is that what's been undertaken is sufficient. But there's more work to be done. It'll be done.
Yeah, I think we should move off the extracted fan now for a bit. Amanda.
Yes, Chair. All I was going to suggest, Chair, is for you to ascertain from the Environmental Protection Officer, although he's making an application to revoke the premises licence, to maybe clarify what reasons he's given for revoking the licence, and or has he, following the representations made so far this evening, does he have any other alternative options for the committee to consider?
Yeah. Rockwell, you don't have to come in just there. Just hold that thought, because there's a few other questions I think are important that might sort of, help you with that, sort of thinking about that. Unless members, of course, are you happy for me to just ask a couple of questions? Is that okay? Yep. Councillor Kennedy, you want to come in?
Yep, sorry, I'm just looking at the top of the extractor fan in the J&L Cleaning Services report.
Yeah.
I'm looking at page 9. And it looks like they can't get to the top. Does that mean they've never cleaned the top, and they couldn't stand on a slanted roof, could they? And
so in my it's not numbered. Oh, hold on, maybe it is numbered. Hold on. You say page 9?
9 out of 27.
Oh yeah, because the numbers are slightly covered up, aren't they, with their
And they've coloured the top in red and said this section is located above a slanted plastic roof, which is too weak to stand on and fit any access panels.
Oh yes, I see.
Also highlighted the first time they went. So they didn't clean it the first time they went, and they haven't cleaned it this time.
Right, so maybe that's the issue then. Any comments about that? I know we're trying to get off the extracted fan, but any comments about that?
Sorry, yeah, no, it looks like you've got a maintenance, well, an access problem to properly maintain it, according to your own report.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, Councillor Kennedy. Well spotted, thank you. I mean, look, my client will. Look, can I just make this? I think Phil needs to make this point. We don't actually know at this stage what the position is with regards to the fan, in respect of those other neighbours. Rockwell may tell me otherwise, but since the 11th of the 5th, and obviously this report was commissioned following that, my client's understanding, I don't think he's going to stake his life on this, but his understanding is that the problem has been addressed and dealt with. It may well be, Councillor Kennedy, quite possibly, that you are correct, that there may be a residual problem that we're not aware of. And if that was the case, then it would make sense that that part of the extraction that they were unable to access for those reasons may point towards that. But we are descending to a bit of speculation now. I'll just make that point as well.
Yeah, but thank you for raising that, Councillor Kennedy. It's a very valid point.
Thank you.
I mean, I did read that, but obviously not well enough.
No,
okay, Rockwell. I just want to ask you a couple of questions now. You did say in the report, page 64, due to the efforts of the officers from the Environmental Protection Team to resolve the noise issues and lack of confidence in the DPS, the company directors for the above venue that the outdoor area garden will not be used after 2200 hours. So that never happened, right?
No.
Okay. That's the first question. And we can ask Mr. Craig why that didn't happen, but just wait for a second. There's another question coming. On page 62, Rockwell, you've outlined all the different dates and things and all the public nuisance that was happening, outlined it all there. The question is, it's kind of a technical question. On those dates, there was a review variation to this license on the 11th of the 2nd, 22, which extended the hours of operation essentially at the weekends till 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday, I believe. Were your officers aware of that? Under the old license, obviously, there would have been somewhere in the region of 15 contraventions out of 36 under the old license, which was until 2330.
Yeah.
But under the new variation, which came into effect on the 11th of the 2nd, 22, there would have been, we calculated 2, I think, contraventions out of 36.
Right.
This is an important point.
Yeah.
Because, anyway, you can try and answer that one. Yep. And then was there a third one? I think that's, the extractor fan variation. Yep. And the garden at 10. So the garden issue. I mean, but we need to get onto the garden folks as well, because the garden seem to be presenting a lot of these issues. So would you like to just speak to those, Rockwell?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I think the main issue here is actually the use of the garden. That is where most of the complaints are coming from. I could see that my colleague in doing this review sent out a letter on the 25th of July. That's on page 60. It's 25th of July 2022. That's on page 67. And what he was saying, the use of the outdoor area for music and patrons, Sunday to Wednesday up until 23:30, and then Thursday to Saturday up until midnight. The reason behind this was that we were receiving complaints from the use of the outdoor area. Another letter was sent, and I think this is based on our licensing for use of outdoor spaces, instructing the use of the outside area to cease at 10 o'clock.
Apologies.
Yeah, this was on page 71. There was
LP7.
Yeah, the LP7. Yeah. So because the complaints, it's not saying you couldn't use it, but because we were getting those complaints, and on page 71, you would see it that there was an email dated the 24th of August requesting for the outdoor use to cease at 10 p.m., which is a standard condition on the LP7.
I mean, has the licensing team got power to do that on the license, to come in and say, change things like that?
Well, I don't know if this, from my colleague, I don't know if this was something where he did in such a way to minimize the number of complaints that we were receiving. But I don't know. I'm not sure if we have the powers.
Or does the license have to be reviewed and then kind of, new conditions?
Most possibly so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Councillor Kennedy.
I was about to say exactly that. Isn't that because a review's been applied for, you can, as a result of a review, you can alter the conditions and the hours of a license, can you not? Isn't that the whole point?
Yes, you can modify it. That's one of the requirements if you choose to do that.
Yeah.
And the second thing I was going to, I stuck my hand up, was to, while we're talking about the outside area, was again to go back to the noise report and the conclusion of the noise report. So paragraph 12 is page 22 out of 27 of the noise report.
Yeah.
The last 3 lines of that are, The proposed rear garden structure has been investigated for construction and potential noise problems. The garden structure is certainly capable, once fully complete, of operating without causing loss of amenity to nearby residential occupiers.
Yeah.
But it's clearly not finished yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's certainly a question for you, Mr. Craig, about the proposed completion of that. And it looks like Mr. Charles wants to comment on that as well.
Well, that report was commissioned in relation to planning issue, wasn't it? That you've got, and it just wanted to. It was advanced to demonstrate the steps the premises have taken in relation to that. But my client's position is, Rockwell is presenting the position, Environmental Health is presenting the position like it is a fait accompli that the noise that is emanating from that rear area is a nuisance. And my client does not accept that. It does not accept that. It does not accept it. And you have two local residents who are here, who live above the premises, who concur with that. And I feel compelled to make the point again that the evidential basis for what you're being asked to do here is not sufficient. It's a load of anonymized complaints from we don't know who, we don't know what the motivation is, it hasn't enough been undertaken to verify those claims. We accept the two notices that were given in respect of the visit in March and in May. But other than that, my client, and obviously the situation with the position in March when somebody brought their own sound system in, but in terms of the system that's in the premises now, the client simply does not accept that is a nuisance. That is their position. And I would respectfully submit there isn't sufficient evidence before you to rebut that.
Are there speakers in the garden, Mr. Craig? Are there speakers in the garden?
There's a speakers at the back. Yeah, it's all background. It's all background music.
Because Duncan, the condition 23, as you know, in the license, page 67, it's referenced in the final warning letter that was written. Any music played at the premises will be at background level, allowing a face-to-face conversation at normal speech level. So that's condition 23.
Yes.
And all these complaints are about music.
Well, they are. I reiterate the point I make about those complaints. But may I just say, in terms of that condition, my client's position is they are compliant with that condition.
Right. Is there a noise limiter there?
There is, yes.
And does it go through the noise limiter all the time?
It doesn't ever go above the noise limiter. The noise limiter has already been confirmed by the neighbours themselves. The neighbours came into the property and they decided the levels, and it's all below the decibel level of background music. So,
right. So Rockwell, I suppose the question is, if they got a noise limiter, how come it's, I mean, did you witness it? Did the officers witness the noise and measure it on all those occasions?
It was also confirmed by one of the people from the council also that we had the noise limiter and it was all functioning.
Sorry, that's forgive me, Chair. That's Yemi, who is Sam's partner. I didn't realise he was actually with us. Hello, Yemi. We were here. So he's just confirming the position.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was wondering who Yemi was, but thank you. Rockwell, did your officers measure any of those complaints when you went
to
there?
my knowledge, no, but I did visit, I believe, previously, and they have a limiter in situ. But at that time, that limiter was on override. There wasn't a statutory nuisance, I would say, but the limiter that they've got is a cutout type limiter that they've got on situ. I think the issue which my colleague has in regards to the use of the outdoor area is a conflicting one, in the sense that when I went there on the 11th for the 5th, and I went to the rear area, there were people smoking shisha in the back area. And what's happened, they have got a retractable roof. Under the Health Act 2006, that's the smoke-free legislation. You can't have, if you are smoking in a rear area, you have to have 50% of the premises open. And if you have 50% of the premises open, what it means is that the music noise is not going to be contained
Yeah.
And that is the issue with regards to that. It's a two-tier kind of system. Either you put a condition that if the retractable roof is open, then regulated entertainment in the form of music is not permitted. But as soon as you do that, it defeats the purpose. It cannot contain the noise.
Okay. Yemi, do you want to come back on that point?
I feel like the very, very low level, like it can't possibly call people upstairs. I feel like a lot of the time, people upstairs may have it out for us and complain for the sake of it. There's been situations where it's a complaint has come through that we was open after our opening hours, and we then showed Ola Lekon that we was actually closed at that time, and we showed them that on the time as well. So there's been a lot of situations where it's been proven that some of these situations are lies. And Mr. Rockwell, you've said that you've come to our venue, you've looked at the limiter, and you've confirmed just now that there wasn't. So my thing is, if you've come and you've realized that there's not actually a nuisance, like, where's the proof coming from?
Sorry, I could only talk at that time when I came to your premises. On the 11th, when I came and I spoke to your management that were there, what I observed that's inside of the restaurant is that you've got speakers actually recessed into the ceiling. And when you do have those speakers recessed into the ceiling, if there's residents directly above, it can be transmitted right through. It's something which we would advise people to remove those speakers from the ceiling.
Okay, that goes back to my point of an issue with us, because at the end of the day, those speakers was here prior to us. There was a wine bar previous to us that was playing music through those same speakers, and I doubt you was getting the same amount of complaints. Also, the same speakers run below also, and we have never received a complaint from her.
I cannot account for that, but all I'm just saying is that was one of the advices that I gave to one of the managers there at the time, that noise transmits through structure. If there is like a hole or it's not sealed, you don't have an acoustic hood over the actual speaker, then that could transmit through. I have not witnessed that noise nuisance in the form of regulated entertainment from that premises to amount to a nuisance, but that was some advice that I did give your managers at the time.
You're making the point because the point was being made about a noise nuisance at the back, and that hasn't really been the case for us.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Root.
Chair, someone just like to amplify what Yemi said.
So what the question I have is, if all of these complaints have come in, and then the only time you come in, the noise complaints that in which you was able to substantiate was the extensive fan
and the external
and the time when people put in their own speakers, yeah. Then with all these other complaints that you spoke about, have any of these complaints do any of them have any proof to them? Any of them?
Yeah, that's a question for you, Rockwell.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, I would say that these are unsubstantiated complaints, but it does raise concerns when you do have these unsubstantiated complaints.
Well, then the two times that you've come yourself.
But yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So by the times you've come yourself, you've come in belief that our rear garden is creates a nuisance. By the time you come yourself, the only nuisance you saw at 2 occasions was for complete separate issues, basically.
Yeah, that was
and nothing to do with the complaints of all of the complaints that you speak about.
Yes, but it's the prevention of public nuisance. If we do witness nuisance, we take enforcement action. What we're trying to do is to prevent it.
Because the main issue that I genuinely have myself is that me and Ola Lekon dealt with each other for, like you said, the times in which we've known each other for, and how long we've actually been dealing with each other. And I've worked hard, very, very hard to ensure that we don't have this type of level of problem that we're having right now. And I've given him every single thing I can possibly do, every single conversation I can have with the neighbours. I've come to this place. I don't live it local. I've come to this place to ensure that this issue never gets to this point. And regardless of anything we do, you've still gone ahead and created this meeting that we're having right now, but you've never ever been able to prove any of these complaints, any of them.
Okay, thank you for that point. I want to bring in Councillor Root and then Councillor Kennedy. I will say that, I mean, obviously the garden is an issue, so there may be a discussion to have around the times of using the garden, Duncan. Anyway, Councillor Root.
Yeah, well, a couple of things really. First of all, I was wondering from Fola what the noise is that she hears from the garden. Does it tend to be voices, or is it background music, or a combination of the two? Which of the two is the louder that she hears? I'd just be interested to know that. And I suppose the other thing is that just from the point of view of the licensee, things don't get brought to review lightly. And one of the options that we have here, obviously, is to add some conditions to allow the premises to stay open, rather than to revoke the license altogether. So I'd just be quite interested to start a bit of a discussion about the kinds of things that the licensee might be willing to do, or to have as conditions on the license to enable the premises to stay open. And I'm thinking about things like, maybe moving those speakers that are in the ceiling, that are set back into the ceiling, maybe coming to some kind of agreement about the retractable roof, maybe thinking a little bit about what we might do with the fan as well to reduce the noise there, those sorts of things. I mean, I suppose the point I'm making is that you don't come to review and expect to go away as you arrived here. It would be strange to do that, because we got such a series of recorded complaints, and we do have some examples of things which haven't worked right, and where we have had people on site saying that there is some noise trouble there. So I'm sort of looking for something from the licensee about what they might be willing to do to put things right so that they can move forward, really.
Well, I would need to take maybe a couple of minutes out, 5 minutes out, to take specific instructions on the point you raised. But let me just split this into two, because I need to reiterate this point. My client's position in respect of that schedule of complaints that you have anonymized from that was what gave rise to this review, because it predated the review application. I think was in February. So the two matters that are substantiated post date the review application. So in actual fact, with absolute respect to everybody here, I would say that my client's position is, and I have to echo that, is that the review was brought on very spurious grounds. That doesn't mean that subsequent to that there haven't been two incidents which my client fully accepts, and certainly I don't think there's going to be any issue with the condition that nobody else can bring an external sound system in. So the only sound system can be one that is intrinsic to the premises, and obviously you'll be suitably advised in respect of that. And if you deem it appropriate in respect of a condition regarding the extraction fan, I can't push back against that, given what we have acknowledged has been an issue. We feel it's been dealt with, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's definitely been dealt with, because my client, those aren't my instructions. In terms of the other matters, I mean, look, Yemi, you're here, Sam's here, they can speak for themselves in respect to the location of the speakers. But certainly in terms of the extraction fan and external sound system, I don't need to take instructions on those points, because the reality is that you need to take, according to the guidance, of course, you need to take steps to address the matters that gave rise to the review. But it would be wrong of me to then say, well, hang on a sec, the review was brought on spurious grounds, and then acknowledge there were two subsequent things that had occurred, and then say, well, that's against the precise wording of that part of the guidance. That would be, I don't think that's a submission that would find very much favour with you, Councillor Ralph. So certainly in respect of those two matters, I don't need to take instructions on those, because they would be appropriate and they would be proportionate given what we've acknowledged today.
Yep.
Yemi, I don't know if you want to say anything about the location of the speakers in the ceiling, but can I just, before that happens, just reiterate that those speakers are the intrinsic part of the sound system here, And our position is that they aren't causing a nuisance to the properties above because the music is being played at background levels. And so again, I would just question whether that would be proportionate in the circumstances, given my client's position. I would just say that. But Yemi, do you want to say anything about those speakers? And then I'll let Sam.
Is this with regards to the speakers inside or outside?
In the ceiling.
In the ceiling. The speakers in the ceiling, like from where I stand, it's been an issue. And like I said before, Foliemi lives in the flat directly above. She's got the same 2 speakers below her, and she hasn't ever come to us with complaints. What we've done since we've come to this venue is we've tried to have open dialogue with every single person in there. We even spoke to another person who's not in the conversation today, and she said she's had no issues, noise levels. So it's like a lot of the issues stemmed from, for instance, the council not necessarily knowing that was having issues through that, basically. But if, for instance, you guys want us to try do something with the speakers inside, we don't mind doing that. But again, I reiterate, it hasn't been an issue.
Okay, just one question from me, Councillor Kennedy and Jonathan, Peter. I can see your hands are up as well. The garden area, do you keep it open until 2 at the weekends?
Yes, the garden area is open till 2.
Okay, and would you consider a condition that basically modifies the garden times? Just have a think about that one. Peter, sorry, Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you. I just wanted to, going back to the list that we've got that starts on page 62 in the review application of all the dates of complaints, that Mr. Craig is saying to us anonymised. They're anonymised because we don't put down the names of people who've sent in complaints as a matter of fact. But I wonder if Mr. Charles could tell us, were those all from one person and one address, or were they from different people, telephone numbers, email addresses? Do you know that?
There were 4 separate complaints, 4 separate individuals complaining from on our system.
And have you verified their addresses?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's more than one address.
Okay, right.
Yeah, but why haven't they come in and been involved in this process then?
From my experience, a lot of times people may tell you that there's not a problem, but they go to the local authority and still complain to us. It's just the nature of it. Sometimes some people may not have the confidence to approach people, or they might say it's fine, and then they come to the local authority, as likely come to us, and then we would record it. As you do know, and you did speak, Mr. Ola, my colleague who was working with before, he's a very tolerant officer, and for him to bring this review and ask for revocation is because, from looking at the contents that he's written here, is that it appears that you were not working with him. And that's the reason why when you look into this review, for instance, when I went there, I was trying to advise you on advice, because when I went there, I actually left my details. I even asked the managers, could you call the premises license holder while I'm there so I could have a discussion with them, and they didn't do that. So it's that frustration that when you've got a local authority there, it's unusual for people not to respond positively and try to work with the officers.
To me, but if you could let Peter, who's the manager in the restaurant, speak, that would be good, because at the end of the day, he's the one that's there every single day. And I doubt that would have been the case where someone would refuse to call one of us.
Was he there on the 11th for the 5th?
What day would that fell on?
No, that's when I came in about the extractor. That was a Thursday.
Okay. I want to bring in.
Were you there, Peter?
Yeah, were you there, Peter?
Is he there, Peter?
Yeah, he's put his hand up.
Peter, are you there?
I am here, Chair. Sorry, just couldn't remove my mic. No, I wasn't there on the date in question Mr. Rock was referring to. Just a bit of background, Chair. The owners have contacted me through an agency just over a year now, because they demanded a service of excellence. They wanted to bring their premises up to standard of high profile and elevate the customers' expectation when they arrived. So I just want to also point out that I've been in Tree for some 42 years, and I am a premises license and a licensee of another premises that I manage in London, Kent, sorry, Bromley. And
yep. Okay, Peter, just get
I
to the
also
point,
want to
please. We're on.
reiterate that in this local area, there is the Mondarian Hotel. There's a plethora of other establishments that use Scrapping Street as a thoroughfare. So I think it's very, very unfair that we should be held responsible for all the collated noise at any given time, because it's not that case. Also, I just want to note that he left in regards to the extraction. It categorically didn't request a request. It didn't request contact. He merely said that there is a concern for the extraction and its noise of emittance. Categorically didn't ask us to contact him, and Samuel immediately took that note, uninformed, and then made contact with the necessary engineer to service this. And we believe then we are compliant with that note that was left on the premises at that time. I know with the councillors as suggested that she's not experienced. Some of you have also said the same. The extraction, I'm neither an expert, but in my 42 years of experience, there is no extraction that makes less noise than the extraction made at Scrapping Street. By the nature of the actual device, it's used and steer them away from the actual premises. If the top of the chimney was blocked, it will cause an explosion. But we can definitely look into getting an expert to go back into the system to ensure that that's not causing the issue of the sound. But I am saying this extraction system is nowhere near as loud as any other system you might have in your everyday fish and chip shop. You might go in there and spend 10 minutes ordering your chips and you might not even notice the sound. But residents agreed, residents above the premises will experience a different relationship with the extraction because it's a continual ding. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I have had 2 conversations with, I don't know if they're still there, I believe they may have moved out now, residents at the said property. Now, we had communications, they were texting me from time to time, it's a little bit loud, can you turn it down? And we complied immediately. So where these aspersions are coming from and where these continual complaints are being made is a bit of a surprise to me. But as far as concerned, I was on site. I believe Mr. Rockwell and a colleague did attend. We went through to the garden. I showed them, not on the Thursday. I don't work on the Thursday. I'm a Friday and Saturday consultant only for the gentleman. But we went through to the garden when they did attend. I showed them the inhibitor. They said, but then in your absence, they're happy with the noise level now, but in the absence of me, what is going to happen? Will the staff turn it up? I said, no, it's unlocked. They said, well, is it possible for you to remove the key? I removed the key and I've locked that away in the safe and only I have access. So I don't know what else we can do to be complicit with the council that have attended on these separate occasions.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, you've got your hand up. It would be only fair to bring you in as well.
Yeah, again, it's going to be echoing mostly what Yemi and Samuel have said, basis on the fact that there are these, okay, as you say, has been stated, not anonymous claims, but every time the councillors came, that has not been an issue. So in terms of when Miss Rao spoke about moving the speakers, I don't think that would be necessary because it isn't a factor. It's not actually a problem. And in terms of the 2 things that the council have experienced, like Duncan said, Samuel and Yemi are definitely willing to work with you in terms of the extractor fan, but also that from that extractor fan is not loud whatsoever. And Fowler and the other tenant also echoed that.
Okay. Do we have a smoking condition on there, Mr. Craig, on the license? Is there a smoking number of smokers outside and where? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I should get used to these things, but I never do. There is a condition relation. I think it's the last condition actually. there is a condition, bear with me, I think it's 24, I may be wrong, bear with me, sorry.
I'm trying to find them myself.
Sorry, Chair, this condition says.
No, it's not
last
24, it's not, sorry, it's not the last condition, but it is condition 24. There is a condition, up to 2,200 hours, all smokers shall be directed to use the rear garden.
Up to 2,200 hours.
Yeah, I think they go out the front after that, don't they?
No, this is an old.
Oh, is that the old one?
old license.
Oh, sorry, forgive me, so that, has that changed?
Yeah, this is just saying that basically.
Suba, can you help us here?
All smokers up until the sanction should be directed there.
Can you help us with the conditions on the smokers, please?
The outside.
Right.
For
Sorry,
their
Chair.
current license.
For the current license, I can see up, sorry, up until 2,200 hours, all smokers shall be directed to use the rear garden. That's what the condition states.
Well,
Okay,
I
and
think sorry, the issue with that is, and it's only just occurred to me, is the fact that the license that's in there is not the present license. It's the one that predated the variation in 2022.
Yeah, we need clarification on the variation. So the variation that happened on the whatever date it was.
It was January, I think it was January 22.
Yeah. Was there a condition on that one, the variation, Suba, that mentions number of smokers and where and times?
I'm looking at the committee report, Chair, but there's no smoker conditions unless
Yeah, but that license is not the current license.
Are you saying the variation is not the current license? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm that's what we're working off.
I've only just realised that, but if you look at the hours on their Chair, the hours for the authorised
In
hours,
the pack, you mean? In the
pack,
yeah.
the authorised hours are pre the variation, so accordingly, any Chair, I can't remember what I do so many hearings, Chair. I've got
the variation essentially is
Late
Thursday,
night
Friday,
period.
Saturday until 2 ultimately. You know, 1:30 for late night 1 o'clock for alcohol, and 1:30 for late night refreshment, and I believe shutting at 2. Is that correct, Suba?
that's right. The variation was up till 2 o'clock Thursday, Friday, and Saturday was requested.
Is that for opening hours or for licensable activities?
1:30 for late night refreshment, 1 o'clock for alcohol, closing at 2.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell. That is ringing a bell, actually.
Yeah. So that's what we're working to here.
Yeah.
That's what the members are working to. That varied, the license that was varied. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure, Chair, that those conditions on there are in accordance with what is on the current license. Because there were some, I remember there were modifications of conditions. I remember that, but I can't remember what they were. I mean,
no, I wouldn't expect you to.
probably had 2 hearings since then. So,
Mr. Craig, look, just before I bring people in, I just want to just sum up a little bit as to where we're at. Councillor Root mentioned, conditions around smoking and the retractable roof. That's why I'm trying to dig into the smoking conditions. So there needs to be maybe a condition around smoking of some description. The question is, just have a think about these. Are you willing to accept modified conditions? We're not suggesting, there's no absolute here. I'm just planting a seed. Yeah. Garden times is the other one. There was obviously the issue about the extractor fan as well, and the top bit. We would like to see that inspected, but that can't be a condition. But it'd just be nice to talk about that. And then, the speakers in the ceiling. There's maybe something around there. So that's kind of. But the garden time, I think, is quite critical, and the smokers and the retractable roof situation. Because they're right. If the retractable roof is open while smoking's going on and there's music, then it could be a problem. If there's no smoking, then the retractable roof is shut. So then there's not a problem. Anyway, just have a think about all that. I'm just throwing it out there. So, this is not in absolute terms. And I want to bring in Amanda and then Peter. Amanda.
Yes, Chair. Just to confirm, there was no smoking condition previously in the variation.
So there's no smoking condition on the current license.
On the variation license, yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's work off that. So I suppose, Mr. Craig, would you be happy to have a smoking condition on the license?
Well, it depends. That's a very, very broad question indeed, Chair. But I have to reiterate the point and ask the question: what are you basing the need, if I may? What are you basing? I'm asking that obviously of all your colleagues. What are you basing the need for a smoking condition on? Is it this schedule of complaints that we don't accept? Is that the basis for it? Because
well,
there is no debate.
Well, the thing is, it's an outdoor space. It's open till 2, and you know, if there's 100 smokers out there, they would be making quite a bit of noise, I'd say, and causing quite a bit of pollution.
There's never 100 people back there.
And there's not been any complaints about that.
No complaints for it. No one's ever complained.
Amanda, do you want to finish off?
Chair, all I was going to say to assist Mr. Craig is that members are entitled to ask, based on the fact that they'll be making a decision, whether or not it is to revoke or otherwise. One of the options is to modify conditions. Now, at this time, they can, if they feel necessary, make any amendments to the premises license, and that's why they're raising those proposals with you now, so that you have the option to make a representation about it, and then they will then make their decision later.
I'm well aware of the powers of the licensing subcommittee. I'm inviting them to ask what is the evidential basis for the step that they're taking, because
well, we've had our officers bring this to us for a review, Mr. Craig. You know, and as Rockwell said, the officer concerned, you know, is quite a patient officer by all accounts, and for him to bring this for review means that, you know, there's a problem, because otherwise he wouldn't do it. Peter, do you want to come in?
I would also combat that and say that just simply for the fact that after one of the complaints, he then told us to close at 10 off licensing. He just told us that. I wouldn't call that patience, number one. Modification that should be made would be based on stuff that's been verified. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
We told him on numerous occasions to come.
Sorry, folks, please. You need to go through the chair, please.
Okay.
We've had a long discussion now, folks. We've had an hour and 10 minutes, and we're only supposed to be on this for 15. So we're trying to get a fair hearing. We're trying to reach consensus. We're trying to do everything we can, ultimately as members, to keep your operation going. But that's going to mean modified conditions. That's the reality. Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Just my final point is that I would ask you to really seriously consider the regards to the variation in smoking, because it is a substantial part of our business. We are by effect a shisha lounge, and I just want to reiterate one more point that I know there is the garden may seem to be an issue, but it's really important that you recognise that in our particular location in Shoreditch, I have witnessed my communications with external guests, if you wish. That Scrapping Street is used as a parking thoroughfare for La La Land, the Mondrian Hotel, the pub just a couple of yards down the road from us. All the noise that's congregated in this particular area is not solely subject to yours.
Yeah, no, we realise that. We realise that, Peter. Councillor Root.
Yeah, I suppose I just to be clear in my own mind, but also to just get people's thoughts about this. The retractable roof obviously serves partly to keep the noise down, doesn't it? As I understand it. But you can't have the roof properly extended so long as you're smoking in the garden. So that seems to me the conundrum in the garden, because, you know, either you can have the roof closed and the noise is kept down, or the roof is open and you can have smoking and there's noise emanating. Or have I misunderstood? Because, you know, that's possibly why we're thinking about the idea of restricting the timing on smoking out there.
Yeah, can I just answer that?
I think Yemi wants to speak, and I think you go.
Mr. Craig, this meeting has a chair. Please. Yeah, I was about to call Yemi.
Apologies. I just know they both want to speak at the same time.
No, I know, but you're not the chair.
Speak over each other, that was all.
I know, but you're not the chair. Please let me conduct the meeting. Thank you. Yemi.
Yeah, my answer to that is that when the roof is retracted, Peter normally lowers the level. So like when it is actually open, you can barely hear the music. Me and my business partner was there over the weekend and we could barely hear it. When it's wide open, I doubt there's going to be an issue with the noise, with the music getting up.
Okay. Thank you, Yemi, for that. Rockwell.
Sam, do you want to speak?
You're on mute, Rockwell. Sorry.
Yes, with noise, if you can't contain it, it's going to be audible, and it's where it is going to be audible. I hear what you're saying. It may sound low, but it's how it sounds within the complainant's premises, and you have not been there. Yes, it is a situation where if the retractable roof is on, then it may kind of attenuate a certain amount of sound, but then you can't smoke. And if you do smoke, then the noise will escape if the roof is extended. So it is, I know you've got a limiter, but with a limiter is there not really for background noise. A limiter is there for if you've got a level which is not background. A limiter wouldn't start actually cutting off at background levels. It's really for if the noise is.
No, you can actually set the limit on the sound.
Yeah, there is a level that you can set it up to. You can't set it below that.
No, you can.
No, you can't. I know about the limiters.
You can set a limit to cut off at any.
Not at any level. It wouldn't cut down at. There's a certain level it wouldn't cut down at. It starts at a level of cutting. My background, I'm an acoustician as well. I've got a degree in environmental health. I've also got a diploma in acoustics, so I do know what I'm talking about.
That's perfect, because when you came, you heard the level, right? And that was fine.
At that time, yes, I would say that. But all I would say is that if you are opening up the roof, and that's the problem that we have. Yes, you want to have people there. I think that the amount that you want was 44 heads that you're looking at. I looked at the acoustic report in regards to that. It's something where you're playing at your own risk. It's difficult to control voices, especially in open areas.
I just want to ask one question. With regards to the complaints, have they said categorically to you that the noise is coming from when the retractable roof is open? That's when the noise is uncontrollable. Have they actually said that, or is this just?
I have not asked them that question. No.
And also, I'll just lastly that there are two representatives that were here from above. Their points seem to be being ignored.
No, they haven't.
I don't know where they are.
They haven't been ignored. Remember, there's a chair in place. Please, through the chair. They haven't been ignored. Was that Peter or the person sitting beside Duncan? Duncan, you had your hand up there and you brought it down again.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just say, absolutely no disrespect was intended for me. All I'm trying to do is manage. I've got one client here, and I've got 3 other people who I'm representing as well who aren't with me, and all I'm trying to do is manage.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's fair enough.
I think Sam wants to speak though.
Okay, Sam.
So the agency, when Olalekan was having issues with us, they met. I don't know how this came around, but long story short, we had a meeting with the agency and the neighbours, whereby us, the neighbours, in all conditions of how we open the roof, close the roof, and noise that comes from the roof and from the place, is all decided and agreed. We all agreed this, and we haven't had an issue. So all these complaints that you're referring to, I don't really understand what this is, because we already agreed with the roof and the noise and how everything works, and whether the neighbours are cool with it. The exact neighbours itself, they went into the neighbours' house that they say we haven't been there, but they went inside there and they were fine with it. I can even give you the names of the name of the tenants itself. We also have communication with them. The tenants also said it's fine. We've got communication by messages right now, as close as 2 days ago, whereby a complaining tenant said, no, everything's fine. So what is it that we're referring to here when we're saying that the noise can get this level, the noise can get this level? It's already been agreed and already been locked in on the limiter. So and the noise don't, and there is no complaints.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for making that point. I want to bring in Councillor Root here, folks. Ultimately, we want the best for everyone, right? That's what we're trying to achieve here. We want your business to stay open, but we want the residents to be happy too. So this is the balance that we have to strike as members. So we want to work with you all for consensus to try and work this all out. So Councillor Root.
Yeah, I suppose in that spirit, Councillor Smith, I'm just wondering, from the business point of view, if we were to decide that 12 o'clock was a decent cut-off point for noise in the garden, which would be preferable for the licensees? Would it be to shut the roof at 12 o'clock and therefore stop smoking in the garden? Or would it be preferable to keep the roof open and switch the music off outside? I'm just thinking about possible ways forward to limit the noise outside at a certain point.
Yeah.
You know, if you'd have a preference for either of those two things.
Yeah, and you can make your own suggestions as well. You know, because we're trying to work together on this. So Duncan, if you need time to sort of discuss that with your clients, then please, you can have a couple of minutes if you want, and then we can have a comfort break because we've been on this for quite a while.
Okay. I'll speak for them. So what should we do? Shall I just mute and turn the camera off? And
yeah, well, we'll just have a comfort break now, folks, if everyone's up for that, because I know I need one. So I reckon we should take, sorry about this, folks, we want to have a fair hearing. That's why it's gone on quite a long time. Apologies for the length of time, but should we have a comfort break for 5 minutes?
Please. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, folks. Cheers. See you then.
Cheers.
That girl
Hi there, welcome back everyone. Had time to have a little bit of food there. So that was good. Okay, so I suppose, Duncan, it's over to you really. You know, what you've discussed, any ideas?
Well, it's a bit of a Hobson's choice from a client, really. And look, you've got very wide discretion, very wide powers. But I've discussed it. We've just had a call, and my clients just don't feel, in respect of that it would be fair, proportionate, or just, or evidence-based for them to make any concessions on either of those 2 points. You will do what you think is right and what you think is appropriate. I'm not going to sit here and say I think this hearing has been conducted in a way that's unfair, because it absolutely hasn't. You've got to do what you think's right. But if I felt I needed to push my clients in a particular direction, I absolutely would do that. But my client's position is, and you have 2 residents here who are in this hearing who say we don't have issues with any noise coming from that we would consider to be an imposition on our lives, a public or a statutory nuisance. And so we're happy to concede on the extraction. We're happy to concede on the bringing of the any external sound system in. We're also happy to look at the speakers, situation with regards to the speakers. And I would just make the point, and obviously you'll take legal advice, you'll be well advised, I know you will, but the position is excluding background music, excluding incidental music. I don't believe that's lawful, because it isn't regulated entertainment. So I just make that point as well. But that's my client's position. You'll do.
Sorry, say that again, Mr. Craig.
Which bit about it being lawful?
Yeah.
So under Schedule 1, I forget which paragraph in Schedule 1, any music that is incidental is not regulated entertainment, and you don't need I mean, there are certain provisions. I know Rockwell will know this far better than me. There's certain provisions within Schedule 1, like for example, a workplace is exempt if it's live music. You don't have regulated entertainment on there, but it's licensed. But the point is, there is a condition on there that excludes that takes effect. It is complied with as far as we're concerned. What I'm saying is, you can't exclude background music as a matter of law, in my view, from the scope of a license, because background music it does not require any authorization. It's lit music. It's music you get in a supermarket. That's what background music is, or incidental music.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding of the law. And I would just, one last point, please don't forget that under 9.43 in the guidance, I should have brought this up sooner, that any decision you make has to be evidence-based, and I feel the need to reiterate that. So that's the response. We do not want to come across as unhelpful, but equally, you know, my job is to do my best for my client, and we've had a discussion, and that's the position, Chair. So thank you.
Okay, Rockwell, you've got your hand up. Can you give us just a little bit of stuff about evidence-based? You know, because Mr. Craig is obviously saying that the evidence isn't there, and you know, our officer is saying the evidence is there. So we sort of want to, you know, can you maybe speak to that a little bit, just to help us as members? That's all.
Could I just take up Mr. Craig in one issue where he was saying that you could not remove music from the license because it is background music.
Yeah.
I had a case where, I don't know, I'm not a licensing expert, but I have done this before under Section 177A3 of the Licensing Act, to request to lift the suspension of the relevant conditions and give a renewed effect to recorded music as regulated entertainment between 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then further seek under Section 177A subsection 4 and Section 52(4)(b) to remove recorded music. So what it basically doing is bringing it back in as a licensable activity and then removing it entirely from the license. And I've done this before.
I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, Section 177A is where you disallow regulated sensitivity. So the position is the Live Music Act 2012. What that did is it deregulated the live and recorded music for the purposes of a premises license and a workplace, where that authorization doesn't exist. And so obviously in those instances, people might not have regulated entertainment on their premises license, but they can point to the Live Music Act to say, well, by virtue of the Live Music Act, I don't need that authorization on my license.
Yes.
What 177A does, it's a bit of a legal fiction in a sense, but I understand why it's there. What it says is, even though you don't need that authorization on your premises license, we can take it away from you and disallow it. It can only come by way of a review. And so what it does is it stops something happening that you're allowed as a matter of right. The point that I'm making is, if you look at, I can look it up now, but I know Amanda will be able to look. If you look under Schedule 1 of the Licensing Act, there's a paragraph in there that says any music that is incidental, that is otherwise known as background music, is not regulated entertainment, full stop, as a matter of course. And so you may wish to take further advice on this, but my view is that is distinct from the situation that you're referring to, Rockwell. Does that make sense?
That's a different way I understand. I don't understand it as that. I understand it differently, and that's from licensing professionals that have told me that. But anyway, that's not the case, right? Then I suppose it's what the chair. Sorry, I'm kind of digressing.
I think it's absolutely right in this instance, but I get the Licensing Act up. So please carry on, and I'll get the relevant paragraph in Schedule 1. I'll actually be a proper lawyer for once.
Thank you. Rockwell, do you want to just talk about the evidence-based stuff? Because, you know, Mr. Craig's saying that the evidence isn't there,
right,
and we're saying it is. So there's a bit of a conflict going on there. We just need, you know, need clarification around that point.
Yeah, and I do understand it from a perspective of the premises license holders. They're looking at it that they want real people to come out and names and addresses to validate that these complaints have been substantiated. Reoperator reactive service. The service is not a 7-day service, so there are going to be times when noise is going on and officers are not going to be available to visit. However, when people do register a complaint, it is deemed as an official complaint that is registered on the council's system. So, for instance, if we had a number of complaints registered against your premises and you wanted to apply for a temporary event notice, those things would be taken into views, because we have to promote the licensing objective, the prevention of public nuisance. If, like for instance, with the extractor system, we witness a nuisance, we serve an abatement notice, and that hasn't been resolved and we witness a breach, we will prosecute under our different legislation. That's different. And we don't want to go to that level. What we want to try to do is to work with license holders to rectify these things before it gets to that position. And you, as being a responsible person, when I look at the previous case officer's notes and the correspondence that he's had, it's just that he's just getting so many complaints that are being registered against the premises that you were not responding, the licensees weren't responding. And in that regards, the only alternative, even having written to you to say that, look, if it doesn't get resolved, you don't comply with the hours where they wanted to, I don't know if it was something which was agreed up until 10 o'clock, then he would take a review of the license. And this is where we are now. But yes, I can take it on board that when you do see these complaints, unless it is substantiated, then, you know, many people would say, well, you know, this case, it could be that, you know, they're just doing it maliciously to target you. I would say that, you know, at the end of the day, if you are getting complaints registered against yourselves, as with any licensee, people take that quite seriously. And taking it seriously would be something of getting in contact with the officer and trying to be proactive and heading these things off. And this has not been the case, or has not been demonstrated.
I mean, there's a couple of things there, Rockwell, that bother me in particular. Is you know, it would be good to have an assessment of the level of noise that's actually going on, because that's not happened. We've had complaints, but we don't know if the level of noise is above kind of like would mean a statutory nuisance. You know what I mean? We don't know that, but that's a subjective point of view from the person or people who are making the complaints. So it would be good. It would be good to get officers down there basically to sort of measure the sound. You know, I don't know if that's possible.
It is, but as I said, we have to work. If the premises license holders, we do those things, but that opportunity has not arisen because we are not getting contact.
Hello. Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, come through the chair, Yemi. Yeah.
Okay. But what I want to say to that is that me and Samuel have had numerous conversations with Mr. Olalekan through email and on the phone, where we've told him again and again, please come and witness the noise that is apparently going on. So I feel like that's unfair for that to be said, that we haven't been communicative with the council. That's not the case.
All right, that's good. Thank you for that. Fowler, you had your hand up. You want to come in? Fowler? Or is that a legacy hand?
No, I think she's turning the mic on. There we go.
Hi.
Right.
Yeah, both of us were just discussing, and in terms of like the licensing hours and stuff being changed, I think we had two of us to represent that there isn't actually noise that is causing a disturbance, and I feel as though if you've had complaints from other residents, it would have been more helpful for them to actually maybe be present as well to state, you know, what exactly is the issue.
Yeah,
But
definitely would have, yeah.
Yeah, so as far as there's at least two of us here, and we do know that 2 or 3 of the other flats are empty. So it's like, even if they were the ones making the complaints, they're no longer living here. And as people that are living here, I feel like our experiences should be taken on board more than like to be considered in this as well.
Oh, no, they certainly are, Foley. You don't have to worry about that.
Okay, seeing as there has been no actual officials to inspect the noise, I feel like at this point it will be a bit unfair to make a decision based on the anonymous complaints that you've received.
Yep.
So that was all. Yeah, just wanted to add to that.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Chair, can I just for the purpose of completeness, and can I say that? Yeah, you can say it's paragraph 7 of Schedule 1. I'll read it out just so everybody knows. The provision of entertainment consisting of the performance of live music, the playing of record music, or the exhibition of a film is not to be regarded as the provision of regulated entertainment for the purposes of this Act, to the extent that it is incidental to some other activity which is not itself a description of entertainment falling within paragraph 2. Sorry to be a smart ass, but I just thought I'd get that into the show. Thank you. Right, well, smiling. Well,
Thank you.
I'm a lawyer, I'm paid to be a smart ass. So it's paragraph 7. There we go.
I will look it up. Thank you.
Also, in regards to this, the communication.
Yeah, hold on a minute. I've called Amanda. Sorry. Amanda.
Chair, just in response to the last representation made by Fowler, I think it's important to state that licensing subcommittee regularly receive complaints on applications about noise matters where the complainants don't always necessarily attend committee. So I don't think that it's a case that we have to disregard those complaints. So we can't do that, because we do normally they are normally anonymized, because not everyone wants to actually put their name to their complaints, and they're entitled to do that depending on their circumstances. So I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do understand that. Not saying that you should disregard their comments at all, but just saying it will be more helpful in the case of making a decision if, you know, it could be both sides could actually be discussed in the call. But if that's
we can't force complainants to attend.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, to add, and I don't want to cross a line because I don't know how this proceeds, but they could be in this call anonymously if they wanted. They don't have to put their real names in, just to state that they do live in this flat, because we also know that they live in this flat without them in the call.
Yeah, they can do that. Yeah, they can be called as a code. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and they don't have to show their faces. They just we already know that they're in this flat.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that point. Thank you very much. Okay. Right, folks. So just to sum up a little bit as to where we're at now, Mr. Craig. Foley, can you put your hand down, please? So on the extractor fan, we can do something on that.
Yeah.
Yep. On the speakers, You
Which
did
speakers?
mention we could speakers, yeah, the speakers.
Well, there's the externals. People bring them from outside.
Yeah.
We're happy to concede on that, and we're happy to look at doing something with the ceiling speakers if that's going to. But I just make the point that my clients don't think there is any nuisance coming from the background music from those speakers. So, but look, I'm happy to have a site meeting with Rockwell at any point in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, that
whatever the outcome of this is, to try and work with. And what I'm very keen to avoid for my client's sake is, yeah, we could do with the determination there, but I'm happy to have a side meeting with him when I'm next down in London, and I'm down here about once a week on average. So happy to do that, Rockwell. And yeah, thank you.
So did you say you would consider bringing the speakers indoors from the garden area?
No, my client doesn't want to. No is the answer. I've got no instructions on that point.
Okay, so what are you offering? What are you offering? Just to be clear, what are you offering on the speakers?
Well, there was some reference to the ceiling speakers that Rockwell mentioned, and my client said that they'd be happy to look into that to see if that was But again, I just make the point that my client's position is they don't think that is impacting on the properties above.
Okay, so essentially, in regards to the garden, which was the issue, music coming from the garden, you want to you don't want to concede anything on the garden, essentially.
Because my client's view is that there isn't a nuisance coming from.
Yeah. So we got two things going on here. We got your client's view, and your view, you're representing them, and then we've got the council view. Yeah. And then we as members, we're in between, and we've got to try and make. And we've got to, that's our job to make a decision. That's fine. That's our job. Councillors, would you like to come in, please, with any further last sort of questions? Because we kind of know where we stand on this. We know what they would consider doing, etc. Councillor Root, Councillor Kennedy, anything you'd like to?
I think we've heard all that we need to hear or could hear to take a decision on this now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And again, apologies, folks, for the length of time this has taken. But in the interest of fairness, Mr. Craig, I think it's important, that we had a fair hearing. Fowler, you've got your hand up still. Is that a legacy hand?
Sorry, Chair, may I just say, there's no question in my mind this has been anything. It's been a fair hearing.
Yeah, great. Well, that's good. So now we'll just move to closing remarks. So if I can invite Rockwell. Can you put your hand down, Fowler? Or do you want to come in and speak? I'm getting confused here.
I think it's from before, but I'll
yeah, take it down, please. That's it. Makes it easier for me. Thanks. Where were we? Okay, yeah. So Rockwell, do you want to come in with your closing remarks, please? And bearing in mind, we've had a massive discussion about this. We are here from the council as the members, and the council have brought this to us as a review.
Yeah.
So, off you go.
Yep. Okay. On the behalf of environmental protection, we do receive complaints, and obviously in the nature of the business that you run, you would receive complaints from time to time. What it is the magnitude of complaints and the ineffectiveness of not basically taking the initiative to take control and not being able to contact or make the initiative to contact the council when we are trying to communicate with you. Going forward, what I would hope is that we do have these meetings. If officers from the council do make representation, you take these things on seriously. As you know, my colleague before has a lot of patience, and for him to bring this review, he's not going to be taking this lightly. So I would like with the committee, when they do make this decision, that we can put conditions that are tight enough that it does not cause, or it promotes the licensing objective, the prevention of public nuisance. That's what I would just like to say.
Okay, thank you, Rockwell. And Mr. Craig?
I don't know if you want me to go first, or do you want Poland to go first, Chair?
I don't mind. Fowler, if you want to come in with your closing remarks, if you like.
Do you want to say anything, Fowler?
Duncan, you can go first.
Good question then. Okay,
If we
fine.
have anything to add after that, we
That's
can
fine.
yeah.
I usually like having the last word, but I'm not going to complain in this instance.
I'm sure you're going to cover everything very well.
Thank you.
We can actually say this is a lively area, and we can't distinguish the noise that's coming from the restaurants or the street. That's the main factor, that we don't think that the restaurant is causing any nuisance.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk about like noise disturbance,
Yeah.
I feel like
Are you talking now, Fon? Are you coming in now?
yeah, I'm just adding. I'm adding to
Okay.
what you
Well,
said.
why don't you guys have your turn? Have your turn, and then Mr. Craig can come in at the end. Yes. Yeah? So
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we had the.
No, this is our turn.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I think what she was saying is that we can't really distinguish between the noise here and the noise here, which is, I'll say, true to an extent, because I do feel like there's a lot more noise even from the main road, and it's not the customers, I'll say, of the lounge, but there's so many other events and things going on. This place is quite busy. So in general, there are disturbances, but I wouldn't even say it's from the lounge. It would be from maybe things happening on the road, other people coming to their parked cars, etc. And it can be confused as people at the lounge or causing a nuisance when leaving, when really, from what I've seen, when the customers leave, they do pretty much leave quietly and, without causing disturbances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for that. So over to you. Final word from Mr. Duncan. Craig.
Thank you, Chair. I did get the last word after all. No complaints from this quarter for that. Thank you. I'm going to be very brief. There's been a helpful back and forth. I would just make the point: any step you should take should be proportionate and evidence-based. And I've made submissions around that point. I'm very grateful for Fola pointing out that this is a lively area and to take that into account. I would just make the point: we simply, I don't think that the complaints have been pursued in a scientific enough way for us to have any idea at this stage, for you to have any idea what the motivation was behind those, the veracity of those, to some extent the provenance of those. I'm not suggesting for a second there's been anything from environmental health that's been improper. I just make the point that there needs to be a level of investigation that I feel hasn't been pursued in respect of this. But I would just also make the point, whatever the outcome is today, I reiterate, I've said this in an open hearing, my client is in a hearing now in a review situation. I don't want to be here again. I know they don't. That I will happily engage with Rockwell, and I'll happily have a site meeting with him at some point this month, and we can try and perhaps just take those matters further that have given rise to concerns in respect to these premises. And I'll happily say that now, and I'll drop you an email in the next couple of days, Rockwell. To that.
Sorry, can I add something?
Go on then.
Yeah, go on through the chair, please.
Okay. Sam wants to say something at the end. I'm not going to deny him that. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, am I allowed?
Is that okay, Chair?
Yeah,
Sam?
go on. Yep.
I just want to add that I feel like Rockwell is under the belief that we are in some way not able to communicate well with the council, and I want to make it clear that that's in no way the case. We've always been very forthcoming on communicating with Olalekan, Olasimbikan, every single time that he ever made contact with us. I tried to always reach out to him on his phone. So I just want to remove the notion or narrative that we're people that don't respond well when it comes to communicating with the council, because that's never ever been the case.
We've heard that from him as well. We've heard that from me. You've heard that from Sam. There we go.
Yeah, Rockwell, just on that point, I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously the case officer wants to finish, wants to sort of see this through. But if we start again, could we, maybe consider sort of, having a fresh start sort of on it,
What I would say that there is a noise abatement notice served for the extractor fan. That notice has expired. So if that fan is not being fixed and we do witness a statutory nuisance, we will prosecute. That's how serious we are right now. I was hoping by the time that we served that notice to now, I would have had some correspondence, at least from you, to say that you get an acoustician out, you're doing the works. I've had no correspondence. And it kind of links with this review in that regards. I hope going forward that we can, when an officer's come to your premises, you could advise your staff and your duty managers that either they call you there and then, right? When the officers ask that, and instead of saying, I don't know who's the manager, and I'm not gonna ring them, I'm not gonna provide their telephone number, vice versa. That is being difficult in one regards, and we don't really accept those things. We've got a lot of things to do, and to bring in a review. I'm actually in the office at this time, 9 o'clock in the night, because I've got other emails to do after that. So we take these matters quite seriously, and I hope we can work with you to resolve this
Good.
matter.
And then I'll just respond one thing. I think the fact that a member of staff didn't pass that message on it can't be said to be anything other than acceptable. And I know I've told them they need to work on that, and that there's a proper line of communication so that doesn't happen again, because that's not doing them any favours either. I accept that. I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's just about communication and cooperation, so everyone's happy. You know, that's the situation. You know, the council we've got a duty of care for the public. The council need to take these noise complaints seriously. You know, when they get them, and they add up and they add up and they add up and they add up. And for some reason, the communication's gone a bit, you know, haywire. Let's try and bring it all online again. We will go away as members and we will deliberate this in a fair and proportionate and appropriate way. So look, thank you everyone for your time. Sorry it's gone on for this long, but as I say, it was a relatively relatively complex case. But
if proof is needed of our communications with Ola Lekon, we can provide that also.
Yeah, leave it. It's over.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that going forward that you know it's going to work. That's the key. Yeah, that's all I'm asking for really. Going forward, if the cooperation and stuff is there, then it'll all be good. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a safe evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Goodbye.
Bye.